Hello, this is Brian Kim, and I'm gonna do some presentation about my capstone project, which is promoting edible insects, the future food. So this is the base table of contents, and I'll briefly talk about it. So firstly, I'm gonna talk about why me, which is the normal high school senior, got so caught up with edible insects, and what was the inspiration of projects, and why we need insects, and some community project process and impact evaluation of my project. So what's my project objective? So is to promote edible insects and research what approach would be the best method to make the people to try the edible insects. So to find out this my objective and some research question, I did some research, and before getting into my research, why did normal high school students senior so caught up with the insects? So yeah, it is true that the edible insects are disgusting and not very appealing for the visual impacts, as like the cultural background is not that familiar, or it's not common things, or like it's not familiar for us to easily see in our life. So however, I thought the edible insects have more benefits and advantage that can challenge out the bad visuals. So, why am I so caught up with that, and why am I so familiar with the edible insects? Because since young, I was very interested in the environment and like animal or science, especially in biology. So I raised two lizard, this one's this one's called red and white, and I fed them insects, which is mealworm, and that becomes me to like be familiarized with insects, or and having some kind of like perception that insects could be like edible things for the human and safely. And I also have a trait of loving to try new things. So they make me to try new food kinds, which is edible insects, which is not very like traditional or like common things in our lives. And then I forgot some insects knowledge for like 6 years by studying for SAT or APs after I went to middle school and high school. And then maybe this year, beginning, I watched one video from my favorite YouTuber called Ko Jae-young. So he ate only insects for 1 week, and by watching that video, I thought that edible insect eating is actually possible, and there's also some kind of benefits as this YouTuber gained his muscle, which is protein, and lose his weight as the he researched it by himself. Yeah. So what's some kind of like benefits of edible insects? So first of all, they can not only increase the job opportunities but also food availabilities, since the edible insects can reproduce very fast. They can be very helpful for having less food availability place, such as like Africa, which having food shortage. And for the second one, edible insects can also allow the people to have diabetes to get a protein source without having a high insulin. So as I research, like research papers said that the edible insects such as like mealworms does not have a lot of like insulin producing sugars, so they can be a good protein source, since like other protein source like beef or pork have a lot of like the sugar that they can contain high insulin. So they're having a perfect advantage out of that. So, and lastly, the benefit three, we can get a positive impact of reducing greenhouse gas and CO2, as insect produce very little amount of compare to other animals. So for an instance, as you can see in this graph, the mealworms produce almost close to like 10 kilograms of CO2 per the EQ, which is global warming potential, comparing to other porks and chicken, which is like like very high amounts, and chicken is having also higher than mealworms, so they are having like absolute advantage of that. So what was my communities, and I'm gonna explain what that right now. So I chose GC community, which is school including SJ, NLCS, KIS, PHA, and however there was some limitation in meeting all the peoples from each school, since GC is not a small community, and there's also like a lot of range. But to like mitigate this situation, or so I needed events that all GC community can visit. So hopefully there was GC Science Fair. So GC Science Fair was posted by SNHS in our school, which is Science National Honor Society, and they had all GC students who is interested in science or environment visit to this science fair. So some benefit for this for me, because my project is solely about the environment or like some kind of science. So some people who is interested, or she interested in the edible insects, actively engage in my project and very helped me a lot. So I think choosing this committee was a good choice. So the project at science fair. So I basically made edible insect cookies, and for the first attempt with having mealworms in a topping, for the first attempt, and there was more than like 40 people visited by trying the edible insect cookie. And also I had some little presentation up there, like saying why the edible insects is better than beef or pork meat source, food source. And by trying the edible insect cookies, they also gave some feedback by Google form, or also by a face-to-face interview. So I got some kind of like essential feedback. What should I fix for my products? And this was kind of like control groups, since there was no like it was just kind of like solid, not edited first attempt cookie. So yeah, it was control group. Yeah, and there was additional projects. So by interviewing and getting some feedback from the participants, I taped the recipe. So this time, for the second attempt, I made cookie without edible insect shown, but only including mealworm powder, which is this. So this cookie didn't have any like negative visuals, which is like mealworm toppings. So this could kind of like mitigate like negative view to the edible insects. So by this, the response was very different. So for the control group, this data shows, there was more range and lower visual and taste experience. So they kind of disliked the visual, and hopefully there was some kind of good taste experience. But actually, even though they had same taste, the experimental group had more better taste experience and also the visual experience. So this had increased the perception a lot. So by this, I noticed that some kind of like newer recipe is better than the control groups. And the final thoughts, I think to promote edible insects to public not having the visuals is the best method, as my kind of comparing the control group and experimental group. And also there is big potential for the edible insects, and since there was better response than expected, which is I thought there would be no people wanting to try the edible insects in the science fair. But however, most of the people who visit my booths had like positive feedback to my edible insect cookie. So I think yeah, I think there's big potential to grow this business or this industry to be bigger than this time. Yeah. Thank you. That's my end of my presentation.